I came home on a Friday afternoon in June and heard music coming from my backyard. Pop radio. Laughter. The unmistakable sound of water splashing against pool tile. I looked out the window and saw 3 women in my pool. Strangers. Floating on my loungers. One of them was refilling a glass from my outdoor hose. I stood there for a moment, my keys still in my hand, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. I walked outside. The gate was open. My gate. The one with the combination lock I'd installed myself 3 years ago when I bought this house. I stopped at the edge of the pool deck and the music seemed louder now. Invasive. The woman on my pool lounger looked up. She was maybe 45, wearing oversized sunglasses and a wide-brimmed hat. She smiled like we were old friends. "Excuse me," I said. "Can I help you?" She sat up, still smiling. "Oh, hi, we're just cooling off. Hope you don't mind." The casual tone in her voice made my jaw tighten. "I do, actually. This is private property." She stood up, water dripping onto the concrete. Her smile didn't falter. "Oh, come on. Don't be like that. It's hot out." I kept my voice level, but something cold was settling in my chest. "I'm not being like anything. I'm asking you to leave." One of her friends, a younger woman with a drink in her hand, glanced nervously between us. "Maybe we should go. Karen." Karen. I filed that name away. Karen turned to her friends, loud enough for me to hear. "Some people just don't get the concept of community." The other friend started gathering towels. "Karen, seriously." But Karen didn't move. She pulled out her phone and tapped the screen a few times, as if she were checking something official. "I'm on the HOA board," she said, as if that explained everything. "I can check if there's an easement or something. Pools are kind of a gray area in planned communities." I shook my head. "There's no gray area. This is my pool. On my property. There's no easement." She tilted her head, studying me like I was a confused child. "You know, this kind of attitude is why neighborhoods fall apart. People used to share things." I didn't respond. I just stood there and waited, feeling the heat rise the back of my neck. Eventually, she sighed dramatically and started gathering her things. Slowly, like she was doing me a favor. Her friends were already at the gate. As they walked out, Karen paused and looked back at me. "You're new here. Right. You'll learn how things work." I watched them leave. Then I noticed something that made my stomach drop. Karen had punched a code into the gate lock on her way in. 4 digits. Muscle memory. She knew my combination. How I went back inside and checked the lock from the window. No scratches. No signs of forced entry. The mechanism looked fine. But something was wrong. I could have yelled. Could have threatened to call the cops right then. But I'd seen enough neighborhood disputes to know how that would play out. I'd be the angry guy. The newcomer who couldn't get along. The one who didn't understand the community. The one who overreacted. There had to be a better way. I opened my laptop and pulled up the PDF of my property deed. Bought the house 3 years ago. The pool was listed explicitly in the sale. In the ground. 16 by 32 feet. Private recreational facility. No shared access. No easements. I created a new folder on my desktop. Pool incident. Evidence log. First entry, June 14th, 2024. 3:32 p.m. Unauthorized access by Karen. Last name unknown. +2 unidentified females. The gate combination is somehow compromised. I looked out the window again. The pool, was empty now. The gate hung slightly ajar. Wet footprints led across the deck toward the side gate, already drying in the afternoon sun. I stared at them, feeling something harden inside me. That night, I heard the gate rattle. I got up, looked out the window, saw nothing. Figured it was the wind, but I didn't go back to sleep right away. The next morning, I opened my pool monitoring app, the kind that tracks chemical levels automatically. Chlorine reading 3.8 parts per million. I'd manually tested it the day before. 2.5. I checked the auto-doser log. No scheduled chemical addition overnight. Someone had been in the pool. and they'd tried to cover their tracks by adding chlorine. Too much chlorine. Amateur hour. The realization settled over me like ice water. I took a screenshot, added it to the evidence folder. Then I did something I probably should have done 3 years ago. I changed the gate combination. But first, I photographed the keypad from 3 angles without touching it, just in case there were fingerprints worth preserving. Then I reset the code. I sat on my couch that morning, coffee going cold in my hand, and let the reality sink in. Karen wasn't going to stop. She thought she had community on her side, thought her HOA board position gave her some kind of authority over private property. She was wrong. But I wasn't going to fight her with angry confrontations or shouting matches. I wasn't going to be the villain in her story. I was going to document everything. Build a case. Let the system do exactly what it's designed to do. I don't fight. I document. And when the time came, I'd have everything I needed to make sure this ended on my terms. I spent the weekend thinking about my options. By Monday morning, I'd convinced myself that the reasonable thing to do was to go through proper channels. I wasn't going to be the guy who escalated a simple boundary issue into World War III. I'd report it to the HOA, maybe file a complaint with the police if needed. And Karen would get the message. Simple. Professional. Done. I was wrong on all counts. I started with an email to the HOA president, kept it factual. No emotion. Just the details: unauthorized access to my pool by a board member, multiple individuals, and refusal to leave when asked. I attached a photo of my property deed showing the pool boundaries. Sent it off at 8 a.m. and felt pretty good about myself. By Wednesday, I had a response. The email was polite, too polite. The HOA president thanked me for bringing this to his attention and said he'd spoken with Karen about the misunderstanding. Misunderstanding. That word sat in my inbox like a stone. The email went on to suggest that perhaps I'd be interested in reviewing the neighborhood's community use policies, and maybe we could all sit down and discuss how to be better neighbors. Attached was a PDF, a liability waiver template for neighborhood amenities. I read that email 3 times. Each time, I felt the anger climb a little higher up my throat. They wanted me to sign a waiver. They wanted me to legitimize what Karen had done by retroactively calling my pool a neighborhood amenity. I closed my laptop and went for a walk. When I got back, I called the non-emergency police line. The dispatcher was patient, but firm. "It's a civil matter unless you catch them in the act," she said. "Has she damaged anything?" "No." "Then you'll need to file a trespass notice with the county, if she comes back after that. Call us." I asked how long that would take. "Depends on the county office. It could be a few days. Could be a week." She paused. "Or you could install cameras and get proof." I thanked her and hung up. So, the HOA thought this was a misunderstanding. The police thought it was a civil matter. And Karen, I had a feeling Karen thought she'd already won. I was staring out the window at my pool when I heard a voice behind me. "Saw some ladies in your pool last Tuesday." I turned. It was Marcus, my neighbor from 2 houses down. Retired teacher, maybe 65, always working in his yard. He was standing at my fence line, pruning shears in hand. "You saw them?" I asked. He nodded. "Thought you were hosting. They had the gate wide open. One was using your outdoor shower." I felt my stomach tighten. The outdoor shower. I hadn't even thought to check that. "I figured you knew," Marcus continued. He looked uncomfortable now. "Karen can be persistent. Last year, she tried to get my fence adjusted because it blocked her view." I walked closer to the fence. "How'd that go?" Marcus smiled thinly. "I showed her the property survey. She dropped it, but she doesn't forget." I thanked him and went back inside. I stood in my kitchen for a long time, hands flat on the counter. Maybe I was overreacting. It's just a pool. She's a board member. Maybe there was some rule I didn't know about. Maybe backing down was easier than months of bad blood with neighbors. Maybe I should just let it go. I reached for my keys and headed for the front door. As I opened it, I glanced through the side gate. One of my pool floaties was deflated on the deck. I'd stored it in the shed 3 days ago. Someone had taken it out, used it, left it there. No, this wasn't about being nice. This was about my property. I closed the door, didn't leave. I spent the rest of the afternoon organizing my paperwork, property deed, HOA bylaws, purchase agreement. I didn't know what I'd need, but I was going to have it ready. And that's when the doorbell rang. I opened it. Karen stood there, holding a plate of cookies, chocolate chip, still warm. She smiled. I wanted to apologize for the confusion the other day. Friends. I looked at her. Then I looked past her, at her shirt. Her sunglasses were hanging from the collar, the same brand as the pair that had been sitting on my pool table since Friday, the pair I'd found after she left. She wasn't here to apologize. She was here to retrieve evidence. I took the plate. Thanks, I said. Nothing more. She waited, like she expected me to invite her in. I didn't. After a few seconds, she nodded. Well, enjoy. We're all neighbors here. She walked back down my driveway. I closed the door, set the cookies on the counter, and opened my laptop. The cookies sat on my counter for 2 days. I didn't eat them. Didn't throw them out either. They were evidence of contact. And by now, I was treating everything like evidence. On Thursday morning, I found a letter in my mailbox. Certified mail. From the HOA. My stomach dropped before I even opened it. Notice of violation. The words were printed in bold at the top. Below that, a formal complaint, according to the letter. My pool gate didn't match community aesthetic standards. The metal finish was wrong. The height exceeded approved specifications. I needed to remedy this within 14 days or face a fine of $50, escalating to $100 per week thereafter. I read it twice. Then I went to my filing cabinet and pulled out my original building permit. The gate had been installed by the previous owner in 2019. Approved by the county, inspected, signed off. Nothing had changed. I took a photo of the permit, took a photo of the violation letter, added both to my evidence folder. Karen was committing violations. She couldn't access my pool anymore. So now she was going to make my life difficult in other ways. Fine. 2 could play that game. Except I wasn't interested in playing. I was interested in winning. That afternoon, I checked the neighborhood discussion board online. I didn't post much there, mostly just lurked. But today, there was a new thread that caught my eye. The original post was from someone named Diane. Does anyone else feel like some neighbors don't embrace community spirit? It read. No names mentioned, but the comments made it clear. If you mean the pool thing, I heard both sides. Someone wrote. Another chimed in, HOA rules exist for a reason. I took screenshots, saved them, didn't respond. Silence was strategic. By Friday, things escalated. Someone knocked on my door around 6 p.m. I opened it to find a man in his early 50s. Tall, graying hair, polo shirt. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Hi there. I'm Dale Morrison, Karen's husband. He extended his hand. I shook it. He handed me an envelope. I wanted to deliver this personally. Neighborly. You know. I opened it while he stood there. Letterhead across the top, Dale Morrison. Legal consultant. Below that, a cease and desist letter. 3 paragraphs of legal language demanding that I stop harassing his wife. Stop spreading defamatory statements. Stop causing emotional distress and damage to her reputation. The final paragraph threatened a lawsuit if I didn't comply. I looked up at Dale. He was still smiling. This doesn't have to get ugly, he said. Just let the pool thing go. I folded the letter. I haven't harassed anyone. I asked her not to trespass. Dale's smile tightened. Trespass is a strong word. She's a board member doing community outreach. I kept my voice even. Community outreach requires permission. He shifted his weight. You're new here. You don't understand how things work. People share. That's what makes a neighborhood. I met his eyes. Not my property. They don't. He stared at me for a moment. Then he nodded slowly. All right. Your choice. He turned and walked back down my driveway. I closed the door, sat down at my kitchen table, spread out 3 documents in front of me. The HOA violation letter, Dale's cease, my property deed. I stared at them for a long time. This was coordinated. Karen files a bogus complaint through the HOA. Diane stirs up sentiment online. Dale delivers legal threats in person. They were trying to bury me under pressure from 3 sides at once. I picked up my phone, started searching. Property attorney near me. I scrolled through a few websites, looked at retainer fees, hourly rates. Then I hesitated. How much was I willing to spend on this? Attorneys didn't come cheap. This could run into thousands. For what, a neighbor using my pool? Maybe the courts would laugh at me. Maybe I should just back down. Let her win. Move on with my life. I hovered my cursor over one attorney's contact form. Didn't click. I opened another search tab. Can I handle trespass without a lawyer? I read through 3 forum threads. Legal advice from strangers. Some of it is helpful. Most of it is contradictory. I closed the tab. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Let it go. You won't win. I stared at that message for 5 full seconds. Then I looked back at my laptop screen. The contact form is still open. At the blinking cursor in the message field. I thought about Karen in my pool. Dale is at my door. The HOA violation letter. The online posts. The coordinated pressure. And I clicked submit. Sent the inquiry to the attorney. Because that text didn't just threaten me. It told me something important. They were worried. People who are winning don't send anonymous threats. They don't need to. Which meant I still had a chance. I just needed help to take it. Tuesday morning, 9:47 a.m. I sat in my car outside the law office. Engine off. I hadn't gone in yet. My hands rested on the steering wheel, and I stared at the building's glass doors. Attorneys cost $300 an hour. Maybe more. This could run into thousands. For what, a neighbor using my pool courts would probably laugh at me. I could still drive away. Forget the whole thing. Let Karen have her victory. I pulled out my phone, opened the PDF of Dale's cease and desist letter. Read it again. Legal consultant, not attorney. That detail was small, easy to miss, but it was wrong. And if they were bluffing with fake credentials, what else were they lying about? I got out of the car, locked it, walked into the building. The receptionist looked up and smiled. Mr. Hayes, Sarah's ready for you. Sarah Chen's office was small but organized. Diplomas on the wall. 15 years of property law experience. Former county prosecutor. She shook my hand and gestured to a chair. I laid out the timeline. First incident. Chemical evidence. HOA response. Dale's letter. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she leaned back. You have a clear trespass case, she said. The question is remedy. I shifted in my seat. Can I just get a restraining order? Possibly, but you need a pattern of behavior. How many incidents? I counted in my head. 3 confirmed, maybe 5. She nodded. Document everything. Get cameras. Send one more certified letter with very specific language. She picked up Dale's cease and desist. Studied it. He's not a licensed attorney in this state. This letterhead is creative. I felt something loosen in my chest. So it's a bluff. She set the letter down. It's him hoping you don't check. Which brings me to my main advice. Play this completely by the book. She's looking for you to slip up. I hesitated. How much will this cost me? Sarah met my eyes. If you do the legwork, documentation and research. And we only intervene if it escalates to court consultation fee today. Maybe 2 more hours for letter review. Under 1,000. But if you try to wing it and make a mistake, you'll pay more to fix it. I nodded slowly. That I could manage. She pulled out a notepad. Start with cameras. 3 angles minimum. Keep a spreadsheet. Date, time, incident type, witnesses, photo evidence. Pull your property survey from county records. Find the trespass statute and send that certified letter. After that, we wait. I left her office with a plan and spent the afternoon executing it. 3 security cameras installed, 1 at each critical angle. Property survey pulled from county records confirming my boundaries. A spreadsheet built with every incident logged, time-stamped, cross-referenced against my calendar. Smart water meter data exported, showing 2 unauthorized refill events, 47 gallons and 53 gallons. Both when I'd been out, I organized everything into color-coded folders, green for video, blue for data, and yellow for witnesses, and printed 3 copies of the key documents. By 8 p.m., my coffee had gone cold 3 times, but I had something Karen didn't expect. A case built on facts she couldn't argue with. The next morning, Sarah emailed me a draft letter, formal trespass notice, addressed to Karen Morrison, copied to the HOA president and the county sheriff. The language was precise. This letter constitutes formal notice that you are prohibited from entering the property at 412 Oakmont Drive, specifically including the pool area, without express written permission. Any future entry will be documented and reported to law enforcement as criminal trespass under County Code 12.5.3. I read it twice, approved it. She sent it by certified mail that afternoon. Return receipt requested. 3 days later, the receipt came back, signed by Karen Morrison, June 26, 2024. I added it to the evidence folder, and then I waited. Sarah's advice echoed in my head. Let her establish she knows she's not welcome and doesn't care. Let her build the case against herself. I checked the camera feeds twice that day. Nothing. The next day, nothing. Then, on day 3, my phone buzzed with a motion alert. 2:15 p.m. I opened the live feed. Karen stood at my gate. She was holding a key, a physical key, not punching in a code. She looked directly at the camera, smiled, and opened the gate. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I watched through the camera feed as Karen walked around my pool, trailing her fingers in the water. She sat down on my lounger, pulled out her phone, scrolled for 4 minutes. Then she adjusted the umbrella angle, moved the side table closer, like she was rearranging furniture in her own backyard. She didn't swim, just sat there, reclaiming the space. At 2:51 p.m., she stood up and left. The whole visit lasted exactly 9 minutes. I saved the footage, added it to the spreadsheet, June 29th, 2:47 p.m. Testing boundaries. Witness none. Photo evidence timestamp screenshot. Quantified anomaly none. No water usage. I sent the file to Sarah with a 2-word email. She came back. Sarah's response came 20 minutes later. Perfect. Let her continue. Do not engage. 2 days later, it happened again. This time, Karen brought friends. 2 women I didn't recognize. 11:18 a.m. I was at the grocery store when the motion alert went off. By the time I pulled up the live feed on my phone, they were already in the pool. I stood in the cereal aisle and watched 3 women swimming in my backyard. The audio was clear enough to hear them laughing. One of them said something I couldn't quite make out. Karen's response was loud. I'm so lucky to have access to this. Access. Like it was a gym membership. Like I'd given permission. They stayed for 30 minutes. Used my pool noodles. One of them draped a wet towel over my fence. I saved everything. Drove home. The towel was still there when I arrived. I photographed it. Left it hanging. Added the incident to my log, July 1st. 11:18 a.m. to 11:49 a.m. Social validation. 3 individuals. Audio evidence of implied permission claim. I was building a timeline, a pattern. Every incident added weight. The 3rd incident was different. July 3rd, 7:04 a.m. I was still in bed when the motion alert woke me. I grabbed my phone. Karen was alone. She walked straight to the pool and dove in. No hesitation, no looking around. She swam 12 laps. Not a casual dip, a workout routine. I watched from my bedroom window, phone in hand, recording a backup video just in case. When she finished, She climbed out and walked to my outdoor shower. The audio picked up the water running. 90 seconds. Then she grabbed her towel from the hook. My hook. The one mounted on my fence. She'd brought her own towel and hung it there. Like this was her regular spot. I checked my smart water meter app. 7:11 a.m. 53-gallon refill cycle triggered. The timestamps matched perfectly. I added everything to the spreadsheet. July 3rd, 7:04 a.m. Deliberate defiance. Solo workout routine. Outdoor shower usage. Towel left on the property hook. Water meter sync confirmed. This wasn't trespassing anymore. This was routine. Karen had normalized the violation. In her mind, my pool was now part of her morning schedule, and I was the obstacle she'd successfully removed. I sat there staring at the footage, feeling something I hadn't felt in weeks. Not anger. Certainty. She'd handed me everything I needed. Every entry was another brick in the wall I was building around my property rights. I called Sarah. She's been back 3 times since the letter. I have everything on camera. Sarah was quiet for a moment. Good. Now we establish conditions for confrontation. You don't want to do this alone at night. You need witnesses, neutral ones, and you need law enforcement notified in advance. I grabbed a pen. Walk me through it. She laid it out. Daytime, public hours, ideally a situation where other people could see what was happening. Witnesses who weren't my friends, or Karen's friends. Someone from the sheriff's office had been notified beforehand. Clear documentation, multiple camera angles, and most importantly, Karen needed a safe exit path. No blocking, no physical confrontation. Just facts, just evidence, just consequences. When's your next opportunity? Sarah asked. I thought about it. There's a community gathering at the park this Saturday. Karen's organizing it. Some kind of neighborhood social. Perfect, Sarah said. If she tries to move it or use your property, that's your moment. But you need witnesses ready. Can you line anyone up? I thought of Marcus, the neighbor who'd seen Karen's friends in my pool. I called him that afternoon, showed him the footage timeline on my laptop. He watched without saying anything. When it finished, he shook his head. I had no idea it was this bad. I leaned back in my chair. If I need a witness statement, would you provide one? Marcus hesitated. I could see him weighing it. Karen had a long memory. He'd said so himself. Finally, he nodded. If it's the truth, yeah, I'll back you up. I identified 2 others. Lydia, the retired court stenographer who lived across the street. She'd seen things. I knew she had. And Jason, the new father 2 houses down who'd mentioned liability concerns about unsupervised pool access. I didn't approach them yet, but I had their names ready. By Friday night, I'd rehearsed my statement with Sarah. 3 key phrases. This is private property. You are trespassing. I have documentation of 6 incidents. You must leave immediately. I will pursue all legal remedies available. Nothing emotional. Nothing insulting. Nothing that could be twisted. Just flat. Factual. Final. Saturday morning, 9:15, I was drinking coffee on my deck when my phone buzzed. A notification from the neighborhood board. Karen had posted an event update. I opened it. My stomach dropped. Change of plans. Pool party moved to 412 Oakmont Drive. More room. Better setup. Bring the kids. Starts at 11. Posted 8 minutes ago. 12 people had already reacted positively. I stared at my screen. She'd just invited the entire neighborhood to trespass on my property. And they were coming in less than 2 hours. I called Sarah. It's happening. She didn't hesitate. Stay calm. Stick to the script. Call the sheriff's office. Non-emergency line. Tell them exactly what's going on. I did. The dispatcher sounded skeptical at first. Then I explained. Certified trespass notice. Prior incidents documented. Public social media invitation to my private property without permission. She put me on hold. Came back 90 seconds later. We'll send a deputy by 11:15. I thanked her. Hung up. Looked out at my pool. In 2 hours, this would be over. One way or another. 10:45. I called the sheriff's non-emergency line one more time. Confirmed a deputy was coming. The dispatcher took my address again. 11:15, she said. I hung up and pulled up the camera feeds on my laptop. All 3 angles are being recorded. I sat at my kitchen table and waited. 11:05. Karen's car pulled into my driveway. She got out carrying coolers and pool toys, inflatable rings, foam noodles, a portable speaker. She walked straight to my gate and let herself in with the key. Didn't knock. Didn't ask. Just opened it like she owned the place. I watched on the monitor as she started setting up. Towels on my loungers, floaties in the pool. Music started playing through the speaker. 11:12. The first guests arrived. A couple with 2 kids. The dad looked confused. Is this the right address? Karen waved him in. Yes, it's all arranged. He hesitated, but the kids were already running toward the pool. By 11:18, 8 more people had arrived. 4 adults were in the pool. Kids splashing. Someone brought chips. Another person set up drinks on my patio table. 11:20. The patrol car pulled up. Deputy Rebecca Santos. I met her at my front door. Thank you for coming. She nodded. You're Mr. Hayes? I handed her 3 documents. Property deed, copy of the certified trespass notice, delivery receipt with Karen's signature from June 26th. Then my phone with the camera footage timeline. 6 incidents over 3 weeks. She watched a few clips. Her jaw tightened slightly. And they're currently in your pool. I nodded. 11 people. I did not authorize this. We walked to the back door. The music got louder. Kids laughing. We stepped outside. The talking stopped. People froze. Karen stood by the speaker, drink in hand. Her smile faltered when she saw the deputy. I kept my voice calm and clear. Everyone, I need your attention. This is private property. You are all trespassing. I did not authorize this gathering. Karen's face went red. This is ridiculous. I kept my eyes on the group. I sent Karen a certified notice on June 18th that she is prohibited from entering this property. She signed for it. Deputy Santos. I have the receipt. I handed it over. The deputy looked at it. Looked at Karen. Ma'am, did you receive a trespass notice? Karen's mouth opened, closed. That was just him being. The deputy cut her off. Did you receive it? Karen's voice got louder. Yes, but the HOA. Deputy Santos shook her head. Does the HOA own this property? Karen hesitated. No, but. The deputy made a note. Then you knew you weren't authorized to be here. One of the guests spoke up. Karen said you'd agreed to share the pool. I turned to her. I did not. I have never agreed to that. A guest was already gathering his kids. We wouldn't have come if we'd known. Karen turned to him. This is harassment. Deputy Santos stepped forward. Ma'am, I'm issuing you a citation for trespass. County Code 12.5.3. Karen stared. A citation. He entrapped me. The deputy's voice stayed level. You received written notice. You had a key to his gate. How did you get that key? Silence. Ma'am, I need you to surrender that key and leave the property. Karen fumbled in her pocket, pulled out the key. Her hands shook. People were leaving fast, grabbing towels and kids. One man stopped. I'm sorry, I thought this was okay. I nodded. Within 3 minutes, the pool was almost empty. Just Karen, the deputy, and me, and 3 people on the sidewalk. Marcus, Lydia from across the street, Jason, the new father. Deputy Santos walked over. Did any of you witness Ms. Morrison entering this property previously? Lydia spoke first. I saw her here at least 3 times in the last 2 weeks. Marcus nodded. I mentioned it to him once. Jason added. I saw people in his pool early one morning. The deputy wrote everything down. Karen looked at them. Her neighbors are watching. She turned to the group. You all know me. I'm not some criminal. I interrupted, voice still calm. I'm not making anything. I'm enforcing my property rights. Deputy Santos handed Karen the citation. Yellow paper. Official seal. The fine is $250. You can pay by mail or contest it in court. Karen took it. Her hand was shaking harder. I need to speak to my attorney. I spoke directly to her for the first time. You should, and make sure it's a licensed one this time. Her face went white. She knew I'd checked Dale's credentials. Found out he wasn't really an attorney. That the cease had been a bluff. She looked at me. At the deputy. The neighbors are watching. She walked toward the gate. Stopped. Looked back. This isn't over. I kept my voice flat. Yes, it is. Deputy Santos stepped forward. Ma'am, any further contact or entry is now a criminal matter. Do you understand? Karen didn't answer. She got in her car and drove away. The deputy turned to me. I'll file the report. If she comes back, call 911. Don't engage. I thanked her. She nodded. You did this right. Documentation matters. After she left, I stood in my backyard. Pool toys are still floating. Someone's towel is on a chair. I turned off the speaker and started collecting things. Marcus came through the gate. Need help? We worked in silence. Then Marcus spoke. She'll probably move. I put a pool noodle away. Maybe. Lydia walked over. I should have said something sooner. I shook my head. You helped when it mattered. Jason joined us. My wife wanted me to apologize on behalf of the neighborhood. We finished cleaning together. By noon, my backyard was normal again. Empty. Quiet. Mine. I went inside, sat at my kitchen table, opened my laptop, looked at the footage one more time, watched Karen's face when the deputy asked about the key, watched her hand shake while taking the citation, watched her realize 12 neighbors had just seen her formally cited. That's when I saw it. The moment she understood she'd lost control. Not because I'd attacked her, but because the truth had caught up, and she'd built the case against herself. Within 2 hours, the neighborhood discussion board lit up. I didn't post anything. 3 people who'd been at my house wrote their own accounts. The dad who'd apologized posted a timeline. That pool party was not authorized. Karen told us he'd agreed. He hadn't. 43 reactions. Diane deleted her post entirely. Someone shared doorbell footage showing confused guests leaving. The comments shifted fast. I should have asked him directly. Karen told us he was being unreasonable. Turns out it was the opposite. I saved screenshots and closed the browser. Sarah had been clear. Let the truth speak. Sarah had been clear. Let the truth speak. Don't gloat. Don't engage. Monday morning, I got an email from the HOA president, Gerald, retired engineer. He'd been copied on the original trespass notice but hadn't responded then. Now he was reaching out. Mr. Hayes, I owe you an apology. I reviewed our bylaws thoroughly this weekend. There is no community use provision for private property. Karen overstepped her authority as a board member. The board is conducting an internal review of her conduct. Attached was a notice. The HOA was officially investigating Karen's use of her position to access private property and misrepresent HOA policy. By Tuesday, Karen had submitted her resignation from the board. The official reason listed was to focus on family, but Gerald sent a follow-up email to all residents. Short and direct. Effective immediately. Karen Morrison has resigned from the HOA board. We are clarifying our policies regarding private versus common property. Board members are expected to uphold the same rules as all residents. It was the closest thing to a public rebuke the HOA could issue without opening itself to liability. Wednesday brought something unexpected. A letter from my home insurance company. They'd been copied on the sheriff's report automatically through some county filing system. The letter thanked me for documenting and resolving the unauthorized use issue appropriately. It confirmed that any injury or damage occurring during unauthorized pool use would have voided my liability coverage. The letter ended with a line that made me pause. Your diligence in protecting your property rights also protected your coverage. Thank you for taking the proper steps. I hadn't even thought about the insurance angle. But it made sense. If someone had drowned in my pool during one of Karen's parties, I could have been financially destroyed. The certified notice hadn't just been about property rights. It had been about protecting myself from catastrophic liability. I filed the letter with everything else. Karen paid the citation without contesting it. $250. County records showed the payment was processed on Thursday. No court appearance. No challenge. Just payment and closure. But the citation stayed on file. Public record. Anyone doing a background check would see it. Criminal trespass. Guilty by payment. The neighborhood shifted after that. Marcus stopped by with 2 beers on Friday evening. We sat on my back porch and didn't talk about Karen. Just baseball. The weather. His grandson's upcoming visit. Normal neighbor things. Before he left, he said something I'd been thinking, but hadn't voiced. Most people didn't know the full story. They do now. Lydia dropped off a pie on Saturday. Lemon meringue. She'd been a court stenographer for 30 years before retiring. "I've seen too many cases where people don't document properly," she said. "You did it right. Evidence matters." 2 families who'd been at the unauthorized party sent apology notes through my mailbox. One included a gift card to a local coffee shop. "Sorry for the intrusion. We were misled." The new normal felt different. People still waved when I checked my mail, but now they don't approach my gate without asking first. Someone's basketball rolled into my yard one afternoon. The kid knocked on my door and asked if he could retrieve it. I said of course. His mom thanked me from the sidewalk. That small moment felt significant. Boundaries were being respected again. I swam in my pool that Sunday evening. First time in over a month that I'd actually used it. Just floated there as the sun set. The water was perfectly balanced. Chlorine at 2.5 parts per million. The cameras were still mounted on the fence, still recording. I'd decided to leave them up. Not out of paranoia, out of practicality. I'd learned something these past weeks. Documentation isn't suspicion. It's protection. The system works when you understand how to use it. But you have to do the work. You have to be patient. You have to let the process unfold. And sometimes, you have to be willing to stand alone until the truth catches up. 3 months later. September brought cooler mornings and the end of pool season. I stood on my back deck with coffee, watching leaves collect on the blue tarp I'd stretched over the water. The neighborhood felt different now. Quieter. More respectful. Or maybe I just understood it better. The HOA newsletter arrived in my inbox that morning. I almost deleted it without reading. Then I saw the new section. Property rights and community standards. 2 full pages outlining the difference between private property and common areas. A clear ethics code for board members. Direct language about unauthorized access and liability. It was dry, bureaucratic, and exactly what should have existed from the beginning. Gerald had done his homework. The policy wasn't just about my situation. It protected everyone. Clarified expectations. Set boundaries that should have been obvious but apparently weren't. Karen and Dale moved out in August, downsizing, according to the listing. The house sold in 3 weeks. I saw the moving truck from my window but didn't go outside. There was nothing to say. No final confrontation. No closure moment. They just left. A younger couple bought the place. They introduced themselves the day they moved in, but didn't ask about the previous owners. I didn't volunteer anything. Marcus became the new HOA treasurer in the September election. His first act was eliminating the aesthetic violation fines that Karen had used as weapons. "If it's not a safety issue or explicitly in the covenants, we're not writing tickets," he announced at the meeting. I didn't attend, but I read the minutes. The vote was unanimous. The HOA started planning a fall community gathering. At the actual park this time. I RSVP'd, yes. It felt right to show I wasn't hostile to the community, just protective of boundaries. Lydia still waved from her porch every morning. Jason's kid learned to swim that summer, but at the community pool, with proper supervision and permits. Diane, Karen's friend who'd posted about community spirit, apologized to me in person one afternoon. "I should have fact-checked before assuming," she said. I appreciated that. The neighborhood wasn't divided anymore. It had just recalibrated around clearer expectations. I kept the security cameras up. People asked about them sometimes. I explained simply. After what happened, I want documentation if there's ever a question. No one argued. A few neighbors installed their own cameras after that. Not because of paranoia, because documentation had become normalized. Evidence wasn't aggressive. It was just smart. Sitting on my deck that September morning, I thought about what I'd learned. I bought this house for the pool, for summer mornings and quiet evenings, for the privacy of my own space. Instead, I got a masterclass in property law and the importance of documentation. Some people thought I was harsh. Maybe I was. But Karen had every chance to stop. 3 verbal requests, 2 written notices, multiple witnesses. She chose escalation at every turn. I just chose preparation. The system didn't protect me automatically. I had to activate it. Document everything. Follow the process. Stay calm. Let facts speak louder than emotion. It worked because I made it work. But the real victory wasn't the citation or Karen moving away or the apology muffins. The real victory was this moment, sitting by my covered pool without checking the gate every 5 minutes, trusting my neighbors to respect boundaries, having the freedom to use my own property without anxiety. That's what I wanted all along. They say good fences make good neighbors. I'd add that good documentation makes good boundaries. You can be kind and still enforce your rights. You can pursue justice without cruelty. The system works when you understand how to use it and have the patience to see it through. Karen taught me that. In a way, I'm almost grateful. Almost. I finished my coffee and went inside. Checked the camera feeds one last time. Nothing. Just an empty backyard and a covered pool. Normal. Finally, normal. The cameras would stay up. The documentation folder would stay organized. But the hypervigilance could fade. I'd proven what I needed to prove. Not to Karen. Not to the neighborhood. To myself. That standing up for your rights doesn't make you the bad guy. It just makes you someone who refuses to be pushed around. And sometimes, that's exactly what good neighbors need to see. Sometimes. Standing up for yourself means standing alone. But when you do it right, when you document every step and let the system work, the truth finds its way to the surface. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever felt powerless against someone who thought rules didn't apply to them, you're not alone. Subscribe to Gated Drama for more stories about ordinary people who refused to back down. Drop a comment below and tell us, have you ever had to draw a hard boundary? We read every single one.